Whoa! Our minds are blown because of two mind-blowing masterpieces, and we're going to try and put them together again on tonight's Film Swap. Join us!
Don't freak out, man!
Here is a motion picture film. Let's tidy up this tangle of film by putting it on a reel.
Hello, listeners, and welcome to Film Swap. My name is David Seeley. Mr. Jonathan Pritchard Barrett. How are you today, Jonathan?
I'm very well. Good to see you, David.
Have you had a good week?
I've had a great week, yes, and especially I've really enjoyed watching these two films. I'm really looking forward to chatting about them.
These are proper mind benders, aren't they? They're proper, like, they mess with your mind, don't they?
They really do. They are two proper mind-bending films.
And that's why we've called the episode tonight Mind-Bending Masterpieces, because they are both, I think it's fair to say, masterpieces. They're both really classic films, and highly regarded.
Yeah.
And we are going to tonight talk a bit about them.
Yes.
And try and introduce you, listeners, and convince you that these films are something you should put on your watch list.
Definitely.
And check them out. I had over the holidays, I had a conversation with somebody. And they were telling me about how they don't like films unless they have happy endings or they don't like ambiguous endings or endings that leave them hanging or don't tie up all the loose ends. And, and they say they just really don't like it and they don't feel it's a good film unless it has a proper, as they say, a proper ending. So what do you think they'd make of these films tonight?
They might not rate them that highly.
they might struggle. I think they might struggle because it's not even just the ending of these films that is ambiguous. It's the whole films are ambiguous, aren't they? They take you on a bit of a wild journey into ambiguity land, don't they?
They do. They very much do. Yeah. There is not so much in the way of closure. Let's put it like that.
That's right. That's right.
It's the opposite of closure. It's openness. It's just.
And how do you feel about it when you watch a film? Like, do you need nice nice tied up endings where everyone walks away happy?
Well, I would say I don't actually need a sort of happy ending, but I do like a film with a happy ending because the thing is nowadays there's so many films without happy endings. When you do get one, it's like, oh, that's nice. Don't get many of those nowadays. It may be a sort of illusion, but it's still a nice illusion. However, I do like a sort of a good ambiguous ending and a sort of open movie. Definitely. I'm quite happy to watch that. And from, both these films, I highly, highly rate. So I probably wouldn't be able to
absolutely.
Do yeah.
I mean, I'm the same as you. I like all kinds of films, obviously, but I quite like a film that challenges me a little bit and makes me think a little bit about what's going on and makes me have to pay attention and makes me have to think. Yeah. And I especially like an ending that makes me sort of walk away thinking about it afterwards and sort of wondering, well, maybe this could have happened and maybe that could have happened and maybe it turned out like this or maybe it didn't, and it sort of leaves you a little bit using your imagination and your own creativity to sort of think about, possible outcomes for the stories and things. So that's usually so I quite appreciate films like the ones we're talking about tonight because it's kind of makes it fun, doesn't it?
It does make it better. And one of the things I like about movies is discussing them afterwards with people.
Yes,
And
which
so
could explain why we started a podcast.
exactly, slightly does, yeah. And a film like this, or these sort of a film, a sort of open film, ambiguous and film that's sort of open to interpretation, allows for a lot more sort of discussion, and so that's why possibly one of the reasons I like it as well, or like them.
Brilliant. Well, I think we always wear our hearts on our sleeve when we start these because the whole idea of Film Swab is that we're recommending films that
Yep.
we really think are really good and worthwhile for people to check out.
Yep.
So I think it's pretty clear probably that we quite really like these films that we're talking about. Usually, although there is always a possibility, I suppose, at one time you're going to recommend a film that I'm not going to like, or vice versa,
Yep.
and we might run into that at some point where we might just sort of like, I hated this film, even though you really liked it or something.
Yeah.
But we haven't come across that yet.
Not yet. Not yet. No.
But maybe listeners, stay tuned because it's bound to happen sooner or later.
It'll be an entertaining episode, I'm sure.
Well, absolutely. But anyway, Jonathan, shall we start diving in to the labyrinth that is the Saragossa manuscripts?
Yes.
So, Jonathan, do you want to take it away and introduce Saragossa manuscripts?
Yes, the Saragossa manuscript,
singular
manuscript is, and I should say here before I start talking about this film, it's a Polish film, and any Polish listeners, please excuse my appalling pronunciation, and try not to sort of grind your teeth too much because I'm sure it will be pretty excruciating. Anyway.
And of course, leave your comments and things as well if this is a film in particular that is close to your heart, or you have anything you want to say about it. We'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely. So this film was released in 1965. It's Polish, and it was directed by a Polish director called Wojciech Has, I think is how you pronounce his name. And it stars the great Polish actor Zbigniew Cybulski, and he was known as the Polish James Dean, partly because he's sort of young and handsome, and he died too young. I think he died in a sort of car crash in 1967, and he's sort of best known for he's in Andrzej Wajda's Ashes and Diamonds, which is one of the sort of classic post-war movies. And
that's brilliant.
Yeah, and so he's until his death at the age of just 39, he was like really big name in Polish cinema. Anyway, the film is set going back to Napoleonic era, having done that a few episodes ago, and it's set in Spain in the period of the Napoleonic Wars, called the Peninsular Wars, and Peninsula being Spain and Portugal, where what's his name, the Duke of Wellington, he wasn't called that then, was fighting the French. And anyway, so to summarize the plot, well.
Yes, I can't wait to hear this.
Basically, it's a plot that's almost impossible to summarize, and I would say it's the film you'll never forget, but you'll probably never really remember either, because it's so sort of complicated, it's so Byzantine. There's so many levels and layers and stories within stories and dreams within stories within dreams within nightmares, and it's really that, and that's what really makes the film so extraordinary. So essentially, the way I've always described it, I'm not sure this is exactly true, is that there's this character, a soldier, and it's during a battle, and he sort of goes into a inn in this sort of town in somewhere in Spain, and they open up, they find a book, And they open it up, or he opens it up and starts reading it. And then the enemy officer comes in and wants to sort of take him away as a prisoner. But he says, no, no, let's read this. And both men sit down and start reading it. And then you go into the story of what what they're reading. And that story, I think, is about one of them is the original man's father. Anyway, it's set in the same inn. And then in that story, somebody tells a story. And then in that story, somebody falls asleep, and then you go into their dream. And then in their dream, they meet somebody who tells them a story. And then that person has a dream. And I mean, basically, I always take notes in this thing. And I've taken more notes on the mad plot. It's sort of, it's sort of crazy and sort of dream-inducing. We're just watching it. But it's I mean, it's one of those films you watch again and again, just trying to and get more out of it each time. It's like listening to a sort of really well produced sort of album, in sort of with headphones on. Each time you get a different sort of texture or whatever it is. And what do you think, David?
Well, this is my first time watching it. It's one of those films that's been on my sort of want to see list for many, many years, but I've just sort of just never gotten around to it. And then when you said, that you wanted to talk about it on the show, I was immediately like, okay, now I've got my excuse. I'm going to dive in. So I went and got myself the Mr. Bongo Blu-ray. And I watched it. I'm afraid, although I didn't want to, again, it was a situation where I had to split it up over 2 nights. There is an intermission that's in the film, like a little part 1, part 2 thing. So when it said end of part 1, I kind of stopped it and said, okay, I'm going to have to come back to this tomorrow.
Yeah.
But I absolutely loved it. I thought it was brilliant, and it was, like you say, just this kind of like, it is very dreamlike in a lot of ways, because it kind of starts out with these 2 guys and they sit, and something right at the beginning, because in the battle, the film has very much a kind of a sort of a tongue-in-cheek vibe to it as well, doesn't it? There's a lot of sort of surreal moments. And there's like a bit like at the beginning in the battle, there's a guy who gets shot and does the whole, and he falls over and dies. And then a couple minutes later, someone walks up to him and he just gets up and starts walking around again. So there's little sort of touches like that all the way through it.
Yeah.
And these 2 blokes sit down and start reading this book. And then after that, it's sort of, one person starts to tell a story, and then within his story, it kind of goes to his story, and then in that story, someone else says, this thing happened to me last night, and then they go off into that story, and then in that story, someone starts telling a story, which they then go to, and it's kind of a bit like that. And then the fun thing is that throughout all these different stories, and it seems to bounce around in time. And sometimes it seems like it's a dream, and then other times it gets a bit scary, and then other times it gets a bit comical. And there's little references to other stories within the story, so that kind of connects them all. And maybe something little that happened at one moment in a story a little while ago, that character and that incident pops up, but you see it from a different perspective. Yes. And it's kind of a little bit like that all the way through it. And there are certain moments when people sort of drink something, and then suddenly they wake up again at this. It seems to focus quite a bit on these 2 gentlemen who've been hung. They're supposed to be bandits or highwaymen of some kind or something, isn't it? And then and every once in a while, someone will sort of black out and then wake up at the gallows underneath the feet of these 2, perhaps who've been hung. And there's these 2 Moorish princesses who are quite lovely, voluptuous young ladies who seem to be trying to seduce the main character. Yeah. And you don't know what they are. Are they demons? Are they ghosts? Are they, are they actual real people? And it's all just stuff like this. And it's just this wonderful kind of, you're just constantly going, you kind of just have to go with it and let yourself sort of go with it. And but I loved it. It's great fun and really interesting, and it does kind of like I can see myself sitting down and watching it again
Yeah,
sooner rather than later, just to see if I can piece together a little bit more of the story.
yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, I guess one of the things that sort of is fairly clear. It's sort of influenced by the Arabian Nights.
Mm. Mm.
So actually, the film is based on a novel by a Polish writer, a aristocrat called Jan Potocki, and it was written in French, I think, originally, and
Mm.
then translated into Polish. And the French original has disappeared, and it's sort of a little bit of a mysterious novel. And
Yeah, wasn't
um,
there sections of it? Like there's some of it, they have the original manuscript, and then in some cases they've had to sort of back translate it
yes,
from the, like there was a Polish translation of the French, which they then had to use to translate it back into French
I think
and
that's
stuff like that. And there's two different versions of the book as well, isn't there? There's sort of like an earlier version and then a later version or something like that, isn't there?
yes.
Or am I?
I think there is.
Yeah,
It's all very convoluted itself.
yeah.
The
So that's what kind of makes why the film's so appropriate as an adaptation, because it very much has that same kind of flavor of just sort of trying to piece a puzzle together, doesn't it?
Exactly, and the novel, the novelist, one of his sort of slightly strange legends about him, if not stories, is that he eventually sort of took his life. He was sort of suffered from melancholia, as they say, but
Hmm.
apparently because he had clinical lycanthropy, which is basically he thought he was turning into a werewolf.
Oh dear.
And he the legend is that he had a silver sugar bowl or sugar spoon, I can't remember which one, and at the end of it was a strawberry, a sort of silver strawberry, and he sawed off the end of this sort of strawberry off the spoon or the bowl, and put it, those old-fashioned pistols which you put have a sort of rod which you put, and so that he used that as his uh, bullet, basically. And and so he was known as the man who shot himself with a strawberry.
Wow.
Yeah, quite a story.
But presumably it was if he thought he was a werewolf, it was because of the silver.
Yeah, I think that's why he used
Yeah.
this. Exactly. But why a strawberry? Because it's sort of a bit more surreal, I guess. But I wanted to sort of tell you about how I came across the film. So back in the 90s, there was a band, which I don't really remember their music, but they were played on the radio over here, called Tripmaster Monkey, an American sort of indie band. And
Yeah.
that's a funny name for a band, Tripmaster Monkey. Anyway, so I sort of did a bit more research. It turned out they got their name from a novel by the Chinese American novelist Maxine Hong Kingston.
Hmm.
And so her book, she's got this book called Tripmaster Monkey, and it's the protagonist is this young Chinese American guy called Whitman R. Singh, I think his name is, and it's sort of all set in sort of 60s San Francisco. And there's this character, and the character goes to see this film, the Saragossa Manuscript, and in it says that he is. I think he sees it 4 times, and each time he sees it, he gets more out of it. And then one of his friends tells people at a party about this film, and the afterwards he can't find the film again. Just can't. It's not sort of disappeared apparently,
Hmm.
and but the funny thing is that the people who heard them talk about it now think they've seen it, and the people who've seen it can't quite remember it properly and aren't really sure if they've seen it either. So it all sort of becomes a bit mysterious and strange. Anyway, I thought, oh, this is great. So this was in the sort of 90s, and but nobody'd heard of it. There wasn't really much of an internet, and there was nothing on there about it. And then I think I saw in Time Out in about the year 2000, the French Cultural Centre in London was putting on a screening of it. And they had about 3 screenings in one week, and so I went, brilliant! I can finally see this film. So I went along twice that week. I went on the Monday and the Tuesday.
Oh, wow, brilliant.
I thought, this is such a rare film. I'm never going to get a chance to see it again. I've got to see it twice to really get to grips with this. I went with a friend one time, and next time I went on my own. And I think the first time I sort of half fell asleep because it was just so utterly bewildering. And and then oddly, about 10, 12 years ago, or 14 years ago, around 2010, perhaps a bit later, Mr. Bongo, which is a record label based in Brighton, and they basically put out mostly Brazilian music.
Yeah.
But for some reason, they got hold of the Saragossa Manuscript.
Well, they had a little a flirtation with publishing DVDs and Blu-rays, didn't they? They seem to have given up on it.
Yes.
And a lot of their stuff's gone out of print now.
Yeah.
But they did have a little flirtation where they decided to become a boutique film publishing label. But obviously, for whatever reason, it hasn't worked out for them, unfortunately. But they did release a few good things amongst.
They did.
This particular film was one of them.
Anyway, so this film itself has a sort of interesting backstory. So he made the film, and then it was released in. I think they showed it first in, was it the sort of Cannes or somewhere like that, at full, basically about 3 hours long, 2 hours and 50 minutes long. And then it was, when it was sent over to America, it was sort of cut down to size. And I think what's the much shorter version. Anyway, that was sort of circulated in the States, but it did get a bit this cult reputation. So that Maxine Hong Kingston must have picked up on, and also Jerry Garcia, who's in San Francisco in the late 60s as well, as the fictional character in this book. He became a great fan of it, or he saw it. Perhaps he only saw it a few times, I would imagine, but he thought it was amazing.
You could definitely see this as a film during the sort of the late 60s, early 70s of counterculture, when everyone was sort of vibing on with the old wacky backy and stuff. Yeah. And going to the midnight screenings and stuff. And because this film is just so sort of, all over the place, that I think I can see how people would have really gravitated towards this.
Yes.
And I remember when I was looking it up online to do a bit of research before we talked tonight, they had some lovely film posters that were all the psychedelic style art and everything for the film to advertise that they were showing it at a screening or something. So I can see that this film kind of fits in a bit very much with that era. Midnight, like the kind of reminds me of the Jodorowsky films and stuff.
It's quite
as well.
Yeah, Jodorowsky. It's quite Jodorowsky, isn't it?
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
So basically, Jerry Garcia was a fan, and he wanted it sort of, disappeared. He hadn't seen it for 20 years or whatever, 25 years. And he paid for it to come, for some people to go and find it in Poland. And I think it wasn't in any archive, and they had to get Wojciech Has's personal copy, and then it was just being delivered to him when he died, but it hadn't been restored yet. So then Martin Scorsese and Francis Ford Coppola and their foundation, they took over and they restored it, the print, and so that's how. And that was in, I guess he died in 95, I think, Jerry Garcia. So I saw it in 2000. So it was in the sort of second half of the 90s that they were sort of working on it at whatever it's called, the Film Foundation.
So would you say you saw the restored version, or did you see a sort of an earlier print that might have had bits missing?
No, I think I saw the one that we got. Yeah, so it must have been the one. Basically, it had just been restored, and they were sort of sending it out around the world because it was definitely very long. I remember that.
But the kind of thing that when you edited it, like you could almost sort of edit bits out, and it wouldn't necessarily change the narrative, would it? Or you could take bits and sort of move them, like you could take a section from the end and kind of move it up front.
Definitely.
And it would probably still have the same kind of kind of vibe to it, wouldn't it?
Definitely, it would. Yeah.
Although, to be fair, I'm quite sure, like, because it's the one thing I would say about it is that it definitely is deliberate, if you know what I mean. It's not like a, um, where they were just mucking about and just
Yeah.
throwing everything in there and just sort of, it's all very calculated, and you can see that there's a master plan.
Yeah.
And the structure has been designed that way on
Yeah.
purpose. And the
Definitely.
things that happen at the beginning do pay off at the end.
Yeah.
So it has there definitely is an intelligence and a structure and a plan behind it.
Definitely.
So we shouldn't give people who haven't seen it the impression that it is just a completely nonsensical mess of a thing with all
Oh
kinds of
no,
just random things happening. It's not like that. It's
definitely
actually,
not.
there is a structure to it, and you can see when, as things go along, that one thing points to something else, and
Yeah.
and it does. There is a sense, if you will, to it.
Yeah, well, I was reading interestingly. There's not a lot written about Wojciech Has, um, and but there is one book that's come out recently called Intimations: The Cinema of Wojciech Has by a woman called Annette Insdorf. I think teaches film at Columbia. Anyway, and she says, I only read a review of the book. I haven't read the book, but in her review she says that there's these sort of common themes and sort of echoes within the films are also found across the films as well.
Mm,
So sort of this looping structure is part of his sort of thing,
mm,
basically, and which is interesting. And the sort of Polish or Anglo-Polish director Pawlowski,
mm,
who did Ida, I think, and anyway, he's made a number of films in Britain, and he says that Haas is a complete unrecognizable genius, probably the most talented director since the war, with his own sensibility and vision. Can you imagine? Extraordinary. And lots of people are mad about this film. So Luis Buñuel adored it, apparently.
yes. Well, he's
And
very much someone who likes to do the surreal and the playful kind of, sort of style. So I can see that very much this, they're quite kindred spirits. The two filmmakers, definitely.
yes, exactly. And so he said, I saw the film a record breaking in his autobiography. I saw it a record breaking 3 times, uh, and convinced the A La Triste, which I think is the Mexican film sort of institution, to buy it for Mexico in exchange for Simon of the Desert. And then his film, La Fantôme de la Liberté, is basically sort of like a sort of in dialogue, according to this article I read, with the Saragossa Manuscript. So it's also in the Napoleonic Wars, and there's this character who goes into an inn and opens a book, and there's all this stuff in there, and it's it's like a sort of homage to the
Mm,
Saragossa Manuscript, which is really interesting. Um, and yeah, another there's a French woman called Annette Gurin Castel. I hope I pronounced that okay. And she said she's the sort of main, I think the main sort of expert on Haas. And she says both of the films are quite interesting because they're both written during a time of sort of censorship. So the book was written in the sort of early 19th century when Poland was part of the Russian Empire. So there was sort of a lot of sort of censorship for of Polish voices there, and then of course in the sort of 60s it was sort of in the Soviet era. So, but both, she says, use masks behind the historical scene to comment on the on 20th century Poland. Film does. And one of the ways she says they do that is with the Inquisition. So the Inquisition are sort of like they're sort of quite a sort of idiotic bunch, aren't they?
mm,
And then also she mentions how fathers are sort of don't come out very well in the book. They're sort of rather they're poked fun at, like the officer. His dad is the one who's obsessed with dueling and a sort of complete
mm,
nitwit, basically. And of course, I suppose the communists were very paternalistic, like the fathers. Alfonso van Woerden That's his name. Yeah, and oh yes, Martin Scorsese, big fan.
Yeah.
He he chose the film as one of his 10 masterpieces of Polish cinema. And another fan is David Lynch.
Yes.
And
Well,
David,
yes. As we talk about him in a few minutes, we'll very much. I think he stylistically has a lot in common.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
the funny thing was the article. I found that he's written an article in which is published in the Austin Chronicle.
Mm.
It's being screened in Austin, Texas, I suppose, in the year 2000. And so he wrote an article on why he thought it was a good film. And he called it, and so the year 2000. That was when I saw it in London. You see, so the year 2000 must have been when it was sort of when the restoration was complete and it was sent out across the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he called it a mother of a film. So I suppose it's sort of mother of his sort of thing as well, maybe.
Maybe,
So
yeah, in some ways, I think, yeah, definitely kind of the structure of it. Some of his stuff owes a lot to that kind of style, I think.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I suppose the last thing that I was going to say about the film is that after I finished it, so I watched it over a couple of nights, which I wouldn't recommend if you could possibly see it in one go.
Yeah, yeah.
Because
I
there's so
actually
many.
did not want to turn it off. It was another case, I think, what was it that we talked about not that long ago? And I said it was one of those cases where I didn't really want to stop it, but it was
Yeah,
just the practicality of it. It was late. And plus I felt too like I wanted to have my wits about me,
yeah,
as much as possible. And I kind of felt myself, I was at that point where I think if I'd soldiered on and kept watching it, I don't think I would have got as much out of it as
yeah,
I did. So I think I made the right choice. But at the same time, I think if you can plan to sit and watch the entire thing, what is it? It's about 3 hours, isn't it?
yeah. 250, I think.
Yeah, something like that, nearly 3 hours. So
Almost.
if you can sit and watch it all in one go, you will probably that would be the ideal way of
Most
doing it.
definitely.
Yeah,
Because when I came back to it, I was thinking, which character's that? And where did we see them before? And
yeah, yeah.
it was all a bit too much. Oh, yeah. So one other thing I wanted to say that I found this really good article on The Quietus, which is basically a music sort of website. And they've got an article on it. And one of the things, this great sentence, or two sentences, which I wanted to share with you because it's so funny, says, "There's no comforting save the cat screenwriting formula to fall back on here. This is more a kill the cat and use its skull as a receptacle for LSD spiked vodka shots kind of formula."
Yeah,
Which I thought was inspired. Very funny.
brilliant.
Yeah.
Do you think, Jonathan, um, because the thing is, we always one of our things is because we're recommending great films for people to watch. We don't want to
Yeah.
spoil the ending, do we? We don't want to spoil too much if we can. But with a film like this,
It doesn't. There's no
I mean,
spoiling.
it's kind of spoil proof in a sense, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because even if I tried to explain it, just like if I sat here and spent the next 30 minutes trying to explain the plot,
Yeah.
as it were, then I think I would just come across sounding like a complete fool anyway. But then
Yes.
also, um, you couldn't really spoil the film anyway because this is very much a film that is completely open to interpretation, isn't it?
Completely open
And
to.
but what I was going to ask you was, should we brave some sort of interpretation of our own here now, or should we just say no, we're not
Oh,
going
why
to do
not? I think that's half the fun. Yeah,
it?
absolutely.
Because I'm not even sure, like, because I've only watched it once,
Yeah.
and I think it is the kind of thing, like, there were certain themes and things I picked up about death and about,
Yes.
things like that, but I'm not really sure yet if I've
Yeah.
really had enough time for it to sink in, and I kind
Yeah.
of feel like I would like to watch it again before I really sort of had a really concrete sort of
Okay.
view on it.
Right. Well,
But
because
you
I've
can
seen
have a
it.
go for
I've seen
sure.
it a few more times than you, so I will give you my.
You've seen it more than Louis Brunel, haven't you? So
Yeah, I
Brunel.
have. I saw it twice in the cinema, um, 24 years ago now. Wow, and a number of times on DVD, Mr. Bongo DVD. I guess two or three. Um, and I guess what it's about is a sort of something about the nature of memory and interpretation and how it's sort of unreliable and untrustworthy, and how maybe everything's a story, but everything, as it's a story, it's unreliable in itself. So memory is a story, but stories are obviously, unreliable. And I guess, well, because it's quite tongue in cheek, as you said earlier on. Yeah,
Well, there's a
maybe.
lot of humor and a lot of visual humor and a lot of little gags, and the characters are a bit comical, a bit,
Yeah,
they're all flawed in some way, and they all are a little bit, you know.
yeah,
So there is a sense of humor about it, a playfulness about it that's actually makes it quite entertaining as well.
definitely, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I think it's an absolutely terrific movie and really an undiscovered gem. I was one of the things since I watched it again. I've been utterly baffled why there's no Criterion version of it.
Yeah,
Because it is. I mean, it's got to be. I mean, it should have been done years ago.
yeah.
Um,
Well, it
it's
is way, especially because if the Film Foundation, because Criterion obviously has a relationship with Martin Scorsese and with the Film Foundation, and they've done those wonderful um, world cinema box sets, or what are
right.
they called? I can't remember off the top of my head, but they're sort of these collections of different films from all over the world that they've restored and saved over the years, and they're wonderful. I
Okay.
think there's about 4 volumes now, and they're
Right.
just absolutely, I absolutely highly recommend
Are they okay?
those sets. The World Cinema Project. Sorry, now it's come to me.
Okay.
Um, my mind has been blown by those films, so it's like I'm still trying to get it all pieced back together again. But they're called the World Cinema Project. There's
Right.
4 volumes available from Criterion. I don't think they're available from Criterion UK though, so you'd have to import them from
Okay.
America. But
Right.
they quite often have little half price sales, so you can get them good deals on them if you keep your eyes out. But they
Okay.
each set has about sort of 5 or 6 films in them
Right.
that they've restored from all over the world, from Africa, South America,
Right.
Asia, all over the place. Just, there's Turkish films and Iranian films and all
Terrific.
sorts. So they're just really amazing stuff, like really, really, um, some really great films that
Yeah.
are worth exploring there.
Hmm.
And maybe at some point, I think if Mr. Bongo, because the impression I get is that the Mr. Bongo, because I just picked this up a couple of weeks ago when you said you wanted to talk about it, but I had to hunt around for it.
Yeah.
But I think this is out of print now, and I think all the Mr. Bongo
Right.
titles are out of print. So there is an opportunity there for some other boutique label to pick the film up and maybe do a reissue of it, and
Yeah.
maybe it will be Criterion
Yeah.
or somebody else.
Somebody with all the extras. You need all the sort of like a.
Yeah, all the contextual stuff and everything would be really great.
This
I
is.
would imagine after this podcast goes out, and they're, Criterion clearly will listen to this, of course, and they
Absolutely.
will say, right, we got to get right on that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I think it is a film that should be more widely available, and I think it certainly there have been times when it's been quite hard to come by, hasn't it? It's one of the reasons why I've never seen it is because it's never been sort of in your face like some classic films have, and even the Mr. Bongo, I just procrastinated picking that up. I always meant to,
Right.
and I've been wanting to get it for ages, but it wasn't until you said I'd like to
Mm.
talk about this on the show, and then we
Yeah.
conceived about what the theme of the show was going to be,
Yeah.
that I actually made the effort to go and get one, and I had to do a bit of digging.
Right. Yeah. It's a shame that because it wasn't long ago I bought one from their website for a what do you call it? Secret Santa for Christmas last year at work
Oh, okay.
for Ken. Actually, he was our guest on the show,
Oh, brilliant.
and yeah, it was. So they were definitely selling them. What was that? 2022. from the actual website, but it does seem to have stopped now.
So anyway, folks, get it while you can. If you can find a copy, I would get out there and get this, or hope that somebody else reissues it at some point. As far as I know, I don't know if it's available on streaming anywhere. I didn't check.
It says the BFI. It says you can watch it on Amazon Prime in the UK and the BFI player.
Brilliant.
Actually, it says on the BFI, it says this film is currently unavailable.
Oh, there you
go. Dang.
Well, anyway, these things, they come. Sometimes they disappear for a couple of years, and then someone will reissue it, and it'll be back out again.
And Prime is actually through the BFI player, so you can't watch it streaming. You can't stream it.
Right. But anyway, folks, make the effort to go search it out, or when you get an opportunity to see it, definitely check it out, because it is a lot of fun, and it's just a really amazing film to watch, and really, really good.
Yeah, I think if you like something like Inception, Christopher Nolan's film, this one is like the original sort of dream within a dream film that makes that one look fairly tame in comparison.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of Inception. I didn't like that one at all.
No, I like it.
But do you like it?
Yeah, I liked it, yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's good.
That's cool. Cool. All right. Well, maybe another time we'll have to talk about that.
Absolutely.
That will be the film. Like, if you came and recommended Inception, then that would be the film that we'd have that.
Okay.
Because I don't like Inception at all.
Don't like it? It's not like you're sort of not that keen on it. You actively don't like it.
I disliked it, actually.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. I've only seen it once, but I did enjoy it when I saw it.
Okay. Well, that's cool.
Yep.
Anyway, maybe another time we'll talk about that. But right. So, folks, you might want to comment on what we've talked about so far, or you might want to give us your views or interpretations of the Saragossa manuscripts, or something else, or perhaps about Mulholland Drive, which we're going to be talking about in a minute. So if you wanted to reach out to us, a good way for you to do that is to find us out on the social media platforms. Yes. And so, on that basis, I'm going to hand you over to a pre-recorded message that lasts about sort of 15, 20 seconds. And I'm going to let you listen to that now, because it's going to tell you all about our social media accounts, and where you can find them and how you can find them. So listen very closely. And just remember also that whatever else happens, you can always find us online at filmswap.uk. And all the information you could ever want to know about FilmSwap is there. And there are going to be some exciting prizes and surprises coming up on FilmSwap UK over the coming weeks and months. So definitely bookmark that site, because you're going to want to check that out. Anyway, on that note, listen to this, and we'll be right back in just mere seconds to talk to you about Mulholland Drive.
Thanks for listening to the Film Swap podcast. If you like this podcast, please consider giving the show a rating or leaving a review. This helps other listeners find the show. You can follow the Film Swap on social media. We're on Twitter and TikTok at FilmSwap UK, on Instagram at FilmSwap Media, and on YouTube at FilmSwap_podcast, and at Facebook at FilmSwap the Podcast.
And we're back. Welcome back, listeners. I hope you enjoyed that little break, and I hope you used it wisely. And we talked about films while we were on that break, didn't we?
We did, slightly predictably.
Yes. But talking about films, mind-bending films, I think one of the most famous modern mind-bending filmmaker is in fact David Lynch, isn't he?
Absolutely.
He's someone who right from the get-go, he's all his films are very somewhat cryptic and a little bit sort of
Yeah.
dreamlike in quality and a little bit out there, except Elephant Man, which is probably his most kind of
Conventional.
more straightforward
Well,
narrative film,
there's
isn't
also
it?
the straight story.
Oh yeah, and the Straight Story. Yeah, sorry, because I like that one actually. I quite like that. That's another film that's a bit hard to come by. You know, it's not sort of readily available all the time.
Is it not?
No, I don't know why. I don't know why. I'd like to see it again. I saw it when it came out,
Me too.
and I quite enjoyed it, and I would like to revisit that. But I just every time I've tried to look for it, it seems to be difficult to find.
Right.
Such is life. But one of his films that's not difficult to find at all is the one we're going to talk about tonight, and this was my choice because when Jonathan said that he wanted to do Saragossa manuscripts, and we said, oh, maybe the theme can be sort of mind-bending films or films that are a bit sort of open to interpretation. I kind of thought about it, and there was a few different ones that I kind of thought might go, and then in the end, I settled on this one,
Great choice.
Mulholland Drive.
Absolutely. I
Yeah,
was when you said I'm going to choose A, B, or C, or maybe D. And one of them, I think A was Mulholland Drive. I thought, please
yeah,
choose
yeah,
that.
because it kind of
Brilliant.
goes with Saragossa manuscripts in many ways. I think. Um, I guess shall I just introduce it? I think
Please do.
the film was originally conceived as a television series,
Yeah.
a la Twin Peaks. I guess I don't know if Twin Peaks was still going or it was just wrapping up or something. But he basically had proposed a new series to I think it was ABC, the network in America, and
Yeah.
so they commissioned a pilot and he shot it. And then when he showed it to them, they were like, "No, thanks, mate. We'll pass on this," which is fair enough. They decided they didn't want to do it. So what he did was he took the film and it ended up being financed by the French company Studio Canal, and
Yeah.
they picked it up, and he just basically decided to finish it. So what you have is the sort of first section of the film is it's a little bit more sort of straightforward and accessible, isn't it? Although it still has a lot of Lynch's kind of odd little sort of subplots and little scenes that are a little
Yeah.
bit sort of, whoa, what just happened there? And you kind of think that, oh, that's going to come back into play later or something. But then there's a certain point in the film where it goes down almost quite literally down into a little bit of a rabbit hole, doesn't it?
It
Where
does.
there's a certain point where there's a little box, a little mysterious box that gets found,
Yeah.
and then they find a key to open it, and when they go in there, then all of a sudden the film shifts a bit tonally
Mm.
and becomes
Yeah.
a bit more abstract, maybe is the right
It's clear.
word.
It's clear. You think you know where you are, and then
Mm.
suddenly you don't know where you are.
Exactly,
It's,
exactly. And it seems to then start kind of playing a bit with time and with the characters, because up to that point,
mm.
there's the main characters, you kind of think you know them, and then suddenly their behavior, and it's almost like it's jumped in time to
Yeah.
sort of later on, and everything seems to have changed, and it's a bit disorienting, and you're kind of like, on the first time you watch it, you're a bit like, sorry, what's going on now? And you're sort of thinking
Mm.
about it a bit. But then, I don't know, because I've seen it a few times. And I mean, it'd been a few years since I'd seen it, but this time I think I kind of picked up a bit more. And we can talk about that a little bit in a bit about, because there's a lot of, I've been reading over the last couple of days about all different sort of interpretations and things of
Right.
this film and about what the story's about.
Yeah.
Um, So I don't know what are your impressions and what is your relationship to the film? Have you seen it before? Have you?
Well, interestingly, I have seen it. I went to see it when it came out in 2001. So
Yeah,
that was probably the year after I saw the Saragossa Manuscript.
right.
And I remember very clearly, similar to, I mean, some visits to the cinema I don't really remember. I'm vague, but going to the Saragossa Manuscript, I still remember it. And also going to see this film. I remember
Mm,
who I went with, a friend of mine. And I remember being absolutely amazed by the film and them both coming out going, wow, what
mm,
an extraordinary movie. And really sort of almost sort of physical response to it.
mm.
And then haven't seen it since, funny enough. But I do
All
remember
right.
thinking
Okay.
what a terrific movie it was. But I
So
did.
you never revisited on TV or video or anything
Oh, I
afterwards?
didn't know. But I actually had the DVD, which I picked up in FOP quite a few years ago. But I didn't. I'd sort of put it on the shelf and never got around to watching it.
Mm,
And yeah, so that's what I watched last night actually.
right.
And but yeah, I do because I'd sort of it was one of those things I'd sort of forgotten, but I sort of remembered as I was watching it, if you know what I mean.
Mm,
And yeah, I also really enjoyed it. On Wikipedia, there's this thing um, uh, contained within the original DVD release is a card entitled David Lynch's 10 Clues to Unlocking the Thriller, and it's got 10 clues. So I did it because I hadn't read the page, the whole page, but I'd seen this that box on the Wikipedia page. So I saw the title of it,
okay.
and so I
Was
thought,
it in your DVD? Was that?
it wasn't. No. So I
Oh,
opened it up because it was still in its wrapper. Funny enough, I opened it up. That was it. So
interesting.
I was hoping that this would be one of those original DVD releases mentioned on the Wikipedia page, but sadly it wasn't. It must have been a later release. And so, but anyway, it's all on Wikipedia.
So
Did it
was
help?
it his choice to include that? Because I seem to vaguely remember when I was reading up on it that he had said that he wasn't happy that that was included in it, or am I
I don't know.
muddling that up?
Do not know. Do not know because I'd sort of assumed that it says David Lynch's 10 Clues to Unlocking This
Mm,
Thriller. So it sounds like it's coming from him rather
yeah.
than from the studio, but who knows? I guess they could have done it themselves and just sort
Well,
of,
yeah, I think I get the impression that David Lynch quite likes to just take a step back and let people interpret the films the way they
yeah,
want, and he prefers to leave it for people to work it out for themselves rather than him impose a
yeah.
particular viewpoint or something on it,
I think I
which
did.
is, the mark of a true artist, isn't it? Someone who says, here it is, but you take what you want from this or interpret it the way you want, or it can mean whatever it you want it
Absolutely.
to mean to you, or whatever resonates with you and whatever sort of you pick out of it that means something to you, then I'm not going to interfere with that. I'll let you have your relationship with it. And
Absolutely. But I
you know,
do feel like these questions will give you a deeper sort of appreciation of the film. Or deep, like
mm,
one of them is notice appearances of the red lampshade. So
yeah,
previously I might have just there's a red lampshade. Now I'm paying attention. Does that help me understand it? No, it did not.
not necessarily. Well, when you think about David Lynch, you'd almost think that if he did write those, that it was a little bit more of a way that he's just messing with you a little bit more to sort of
Exactly.
like, make you try and pay attention to little details
Yeah,
that you might not otherwise, and then they're just red herrings.
that's pretty much what
And
I
in a sense, almost this certainly maybe some of his films almost like, because in mysteries they have little red herrings to throw you
yeah
off the scent, but you
yeah
could almost think that in a sense the whole film itself is a red herring, isn't
yeah yeah
it? It sort of exists to just sort of make you be thinking about stuff, and
yeah.
it doesn't necessarily have a specific meaning to it.
No, no.
Yeah.
I think that's true. I mean, do you want to hear my theory? I mean, I don't
No,
think
well, I think maybe I mean, this is quite a famous film.
It is,
So
yeah.
and I would imagine a lot of people who listen to film podcasts are probably quite familiar with David Lynch anyway. He's quite a popular filmmaker amongst the cineast crowd, I think is fair to
Yep.
say.
Yep.
Um, and this is one of his sort of most popular films, I think. And
Yeah.
but I suppose just for the purposes of if there was someone who was listening and thought, I've never seen the film before, should I watch it? I guess we could just say first that the basic plot is about a young woman who comes to LA to become a film star. She wants to be an actress, and
Yep.
she comes to LA. And when she arrives, she's going to stay at her aunt's apartment. Her aunt is someone who works in the film industry, although I don't think they really say what she does, or do they?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
What she does, no.
But anyway, she says, you can stay at my apartment because I'm going to be away, and you can stay there while you get yourself settled. And then
Yeah.
when she arrives at the apartment, there's another woman in the apartment.
Yes, there
And this
is.
woman has a bit of a mystery attached because she's has amnesia. She doesn't know who she is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the title character, played by Naomi Watts, attempts to help her, solve the mystery of who she is.
Yes.
And
Exactly.
basically, that's all I think in terms of if I was going to tell somebody the plot. That's the plot of the film.
Yeah. I mean, early on, you learn why she has this amnesia. Very
You do, yeah. It starts out with, I guess, a car accident, but I guess, yeah. I mean, I'm a bit loath to give too much of the details away if someone hasn't seen it before.
yeah, but
But
you do learn early on why she's got this amnesia. Also, one of the possible reasons, at least. But yeah, and then it's what I wrote at the top of my notes: puzzle box of a movie.
yes, it is, yeah. And so, yeah, but by all means, though, why don't you tell if you have some theories and stuff? Because there's lots of, you can read online, there's lots of people who have different sort of
Right.
interpretations and views on what the film is about. And I
Yeah.
guess we can share ours in a,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. I mean, if you're listening and you don't want to spoil it necessarily or whatever.
yeah, maybe go watch the film first. Pause us, go and watch the film, and then come back, and then
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, so my interpretation is this is a bit like the an occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge, which is a
Mm,
short story and film I know you are a fan of,
yeah,
and Twilight Zone film, but and a short story by Ambrose Bierce,
yeah.
which is basically a sort of a man just a Confederate soldier in the American Civil War,
Mm,
and he's going to be hung, and then suddenly he makes a miraculous getaway, and he's being hung at this bridge or hanged
mm,
at this bridge, but he somehow managed the rope breaks and he makes a run for it, and he's sort of, but then it turns out that all this was a dream. Well, it's not a dream. It was like part of the sort of dying process, essentially.
mm,
And and then he sort of it all goes black, and he's dead.
mm,
And so it seemed like to me, I thought like the first three quarters of it really is all this sort of um, dream of this sort of dying person.
mm.
Um, yeah, that was my understanding. What was your theory?
Well, I mean, I think the dream it is quite a popular theory, and there's a lot,
Yep.
uh, and also the duality of the women. Like, I
Yeah.
guess one theory is that the woman that she finds in her apartment is basically herself and her sort of relationship with that side of herself, or that kind of dual personality. That's one theory as well. I
Okay.
mean, I take it in a more, because I think that first initial section of the film that was obviously the television pilot that they made, and it has a little bit. It's fairly accessible,
Yeah.
and has a fairly straightforward narrative, although, like I said, it does sort of have these little moments where they hint at these other subplots and these other characters.
Yeah.
But to me, I guess, especially watching this other time, I could just see it very much as like this about the woman's disillusionment. She comes to LA to become an actress, and she's
Yeah.
very,
Yeah.
seems a bit naive and very
Yeah.
happy and sort of, I'm going to make it. And it's,
Yeah.
she kind of seems a bit like she's out of A Star Is Born at the beginning. I'm going to come and I'm going to become a star, and it's going to be so wonderful.
Yeah.
And then as the film progresses, the disillusionment and the rot sets in, and all the disappointments and all that stuff. And then obviously at the end, it's clear to me that
Yeah.
without being specific, that there's a suicide involved to
Yeah.
me. And
Yeah.
that
That's true,
perhaps, like you say, that there's, we kind of flash in and back in sequence in time. But it's sort of like that. I guess that's how I see it, is like it's sort of like this kind of flip side of a Hollywood sort of
right.
success story. It's kind
Yeah.
of the opposite. Like that idea of someone who comes to the big city to sort of think they're going to make it big and have something really great. And
Yeah.
they're all idealistic and everything good's going to happen. And
Yeah.
then obviously it doesn't work out like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think that's kind of how I kind of take the film a bit. And there's a lot of references in it to, Hollywood. Like at one point they show the poster for Gilda
Yeah.
on there, and she takes her name from that. The amnesiac woman takes her
Yeah.
name from Gilda, and there's lots of other little references to old films in it.
Yes.
So I guess that's the way I take the film. That it's kind of like that it's telling that rather than a glitzy, happy story about A
Yeah.
Star Is Born. It's the kind of the opposite of that.
Yes. The star doesn't get born.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess one of the things that the film is not really about, but it is. It's just very evocative and moody.
Mm.
And so it's got lots of different sort of emotions in it, and it conjures those emotions very effectively. That sort of sense of unease and sort of, well, not just that, but a number of different emotions, and there's lots of humor in it as well. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's just a sort of the ride itself, a bit like with the Saragossa Manuscript. The ride itself is sort of the part of the fun of it,
Mm.
if you know what I mean. I would say.
Yeah, and I think it's true. Like I could watch this film again in a couple of years' time, and I might have a completely different. I mean, it's just that kind of film where you could interpret another way at a different time when you watch it. You might pick
Yeah.
up on another angle or something, and you might kind of go, "Oh, actually,
Hmm.
I didn't really pick up on that last time, but actually, what's this?" And and I think that is really the mark of what makes it such a great film, because it's, aside from it being entertaining on just that visceral level
Yeah.
of, you getting pulled into this story and all the weird kind of little bits that happen in it and the
Hmm.
interesting characters and things, and the humor, like you say. But also, it's just the fact that I think every time you come to it, you could pull something different out of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's uh, that's a great film right there.
Definitely. Well, one of the bits that I really enjoyed is seeing Billy Ray Cyrus. Yeah.
Yeah,
Who you wouldn't expect to see Billy Ray Cyrus in a David Lynch film, I don't think. But he was, he's a terrific sort of character.
yeah,
He plays as well. Yeah, it's amazing looking film as well, isn't it? All the sort of
yeah.
shadow and yeah, one of the characters is Mr. Rock, I think, who apparently was fitted with oversized prosthetic limbs to give him the appearance of an abnormally small head. Apparently,
Yes.
it's like it's a
Oh,
wheelchair.
was that the chap, the sort of the film executive
Yeah, I think he
who
is.
was sitting in yeah, because that was a moment that was like sort of a bit more kind of Twin Peaksy, wasn't it? the
Yeah.
sort of the strange sort of studio exec who's kind of in this sealed glass
Yeah.
room, and then the guy comes and sits outside and kind of asks questions, and
Exactly.
that was a moment that was stylistically very Twin Peaksy, wasn't it?
It was.
Um, and I, of course, we did a little parody of Twin Peaks at the beginning of the show, didn't we? So hopefully people enjoyed that.
Let's hope so.
um, so I mean, this is the kind of thing I don't think we want to. I don't know. Is there anything else that you want to say, Jonathan, about Mulholland Drive? Because it's the kind of thing we could probably sit and quite happily talk about it and pick it apart for 3 hours.
Yes,
But
it's a very strange, moody film, and I would highly recommend it. Yeah, in fact, I think it's in the BFI's sort of directors. What is it? Yeah, so it was ranked number 8 in the 2022 Sight and Sound Critics Poll. That's of the best films ever made, and
yeah,
topped a BBC poll in 2016 of the best films since 2000. So yeah, so it's people think of it as a absolute corker of a film.
yeah. This is a film that just kind of sucks you in and keeps you captivated, and um, like I say, has a lot of sort of layers and textures to it that you can come back another time and get something completely different out of it.
Yeah,
And I definitely would highly recommend it to anyone to check it out if you've never seen it. It's definitely I personally think when I look at David Lynch's overall
yeah,
um,
well,
filmography, this one is probably one of my favorites. I
right,
think, if not the favorite. I think.
yeah,
I mean, he's got a couple of other really good ones as well, but
yeah.
which I think we'll be talking about him again soon, won't we?
We will hopefully. Yeah,
I suspect if all things go to plan, David
yep,
Lynch will be coming up again very soon
definitely.
in conversation here at Film Swap.
Yeah,
So if you're a David Lynch fan, you'll want to come back and join us again soon.
definitely.
Um, okay. Any last thoughts?
Where you can watch it, I suppose that's one of the things we.
Yes, I watched it on this new Studio Canal 4K
Ah,
Blu-ray that
nice.
came out fairly recently. I
Okay,
just picked one up in a sale,
right,
um, and so that was one of the reasons why I was keen to revisit again, because I had a brand new copy sitting,
right.
because I'd never had it before, so
Yeah,
I picked that up. But I think it's also fairly readily available on streaming platforms and stuff as well.
it's on all of them basically.
Yeah.
It's on Amazon Prime, YouTube, Google Play, Apple TV, in the UK, Curzon, and
And is
Channel.
that for rental and purchase as well, or
Uh, I would imagine it's both. Yeah,
yeah?
it's definitely. They always just if you Google it, it just has from, which means to rent it, and then
Okay.
presumably you can.
And for our American listeners, the Mulholland Drive's available from Criterion. They released the 4K at the same time that this came out. That I think it was a dual Studio Canal and Criterion um, worked on the restoration together.
Okay,
And so Criterion released it in America, and Studio Canal released it over here. But anyway, so if you're in Europe, then this is the disc that you can get,
yeah,
and in America it's on Criterion. But actually, there was even Criterion branding on at the beginning of the film
oh, really
when
interesting.
I put it on. So they obviously just it was kind of a joint effort, I guess.
Right. Well, I do actually have another question for you,
Sure.
because earlier on, the Betty character, whatever she's called, Diane Selwyn.
Hmm.
She, anyway, Naomi Watts' character. She says, I came from Deep River, Ontario, to a dream place. which is LA, City of Dreams, I suppose. And
Mm.
I was sort of thinking, wait a second, David's from Ontario. You know Deep River? It does actually exist. I googled it. Have you ever been there?
No,
You haven't.
not that I'm,
Oh, what a
not
shame.
that I remember.
What a shame. But it's a great name for a place to come for somebody to come from in a David Lynch film, a place called Deep River. Even if there wasn't a place called Deep River, he'd have had to have invented it, I think.
Yeah. Well, Deep Rivers are great because this is kind of a deep river of a film, isn't it?
Exactly. That's what I
So
think.
it's quite, yeah.
Yeah, to a dream place. And I thought, well, that's just like the Saragossa Manuscript as well. It's,
Yeah.
it's a,
And yeah, I mean, for people who interpret the film as a dream, like
yeah,
I guess that's what some people they interpret the film because at the beginning there is like a little shot of a bed, and that bed does come into play later on in
okay,
various sequences.
right,
So you could argue that the whole film is like you said, um,
the dream,
was a
or
dream of somebody who's lying in that bed and they're having, and all of it's just like a dream, or memories as
right,
well. It
yeah,
could be, right? It could
yeah,
be a dream, or it could be them remembering the past.
mm,
And of course, sometimes when we remember the past, the details might get a bit hazy or might get a bit muddled, or they might
yeah,
get, you know, and there's
right,
certainly a lot of sequences in it that are dreamlike or have sort of
right,
like creepy characters who are sort of some things aren't quite natural, like it seems slightly unnatural.
yeah,
So you think, and I would just point out about the old couple that she meets at the beginning. She's
oh, yeah,
coming off the plane. She's obviously been chatting with them on the plane.
yeah,
And then later on, towards the end of the film, they come back into play, don't they?
you do, yes,
So, and they have a very strange, sinister laugh, don't they?
yes. Look, very strange. This grimace almost actually.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's
So
interesting that when David Lynch wrote that article on the Saragossa Manuscript, that was in 2000 for the Austin Chronicle, year 2000, which was basically sort of, I think this film came out in 2001, but he shot it in 99. So he was sort of thinking about the Saragossa Manuscript
mm,
as he was making Mulholland Drive.
mm,
And that is, I think, pretty much for certain, because those dates line up. But whether it was a sort of an influence, but I don't know. But he was definitely thinking about it at the same time.
yeah, well, maybe, yeah. I mean, he's obviously a film fan, and maybe he has some relationship to like Martin Scorsese,
Oh yeah,
and like I'm sure he's probably on friendly terms. As a
yeah,
matter of fact, he was in David Lynch. I watched a couple weeks ago. I watched the Fabermans,
yeah. Oh yeah,
is it, or Fablemans, sorry,
Fablemans.
the
Yeah,
Steven Spielberg film. That's kind of sort of semi autobiographical.
yeah.
And at the end, David Lynch is in it, and he's playing John Ford.
Okay.
So he obviously they must all sort of know each other. They all kind of came up around the same time, didn't they? I
Good.
guess David Lynch is a little bit after them,
Yeah.
but maybe he was aware that they were doing the restoration and
Yes.
or something, and so it was something maybe he had an opportunity to see it before
Mm.
it was distributed publicly
Yeah.
in that run that you saw.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but definitely, yeah, you can see he definitely some of the aesthetic, if you will,
Mm.
stylistically, that he obviously has taken some things away from that type of film.
Yeah. Form.
I guess just while I was going to ask you about the other. Have you seen the Hourglass Sanitarium, the other Haas film?
Yeah. I bought that on a DVD from Mr. Bongo as well,
Oh, brilliant!
and I watched it a number of years ago, and it's good. It's in color, unlike
Oh, okay.
the other one, which is in black and white, and it's very surreal. Also based on a novel, and can't tell you much more about it. It's a sort of dreamlike film,
So, would
but
you say it's kind of stylistically similar to the manuscript?
yeah, I think so. Maybe I guess it is. I think it is.
Mm.
Yes, and he I interestingly, well, not interestingly, there weren't many Wikipedia pages on his films, on Wojciech Has, in English anyway. So I went through and I created most of them. And
Oh, right.
so I sort of Googled all the information and sort of, yeah, I think I did them all, but I did like sort of 8 out of 10 or something like that.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there you go, folks. When you look up Haas on Wikipedia, the ecstatic gaucho himself was the author of those pages. So
Some of them, not Saragossa was already there, and I think he's sort of Out of Glass, whatever, was already done. But there was one or two, or a few others that weren't, so I did them.
okay. And I guess my hope is if I'm sure he's out there somewhere, but I hope Jerry Garcia got to see it in its complete form.
Absolutely.
Up there, wherever he is, out in the cosmos somewhere.
Absolutely.
So, on that note, I don't know if there'd be a better way to end a podcast than on that concept right there.
That's pretty mind-blowing.
So, listeners, I hope we haven't blown your mind too much, but we definitely recommend both these films that you search them out because they're both really great, and you should go check them out. And hopefully, you enjoyed listening to us talk about them a little bit. Yeah. And we hope wherever you are, you're keeping safe and you're keeping well, and you're enjoying some great films. We will be back in a couple of weeks. And we've got some really great stuff coming up, and some good guests lined up, don't we, Jonathan? I mean, really good guests. Like you're definitely going to want to tune in and listen, kind of guests. So, so make sure, folks, that if you're listening to us on a podcatcher somewhere, press that follow button. And if you're watching us on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. Jonathan, thank you very much for the discussion, and we'll see you again in a couple of weeks.
Absolutely. See you soon.
Oh, that's the things these nerdy middle-aged men get up to.